Some betrayals cut so deep they don't just break your heart. They shatter your entire understanding of reality. They make you question everyone you've ever trusted, every memory you've ever cherished, every promise that was ever made to you. And when that betrayal comes from the two people who were supposed to love you most in this world, well, that's when ordinary people are capable of the unthinkable. Before we dive into this story, I want you to do something for me. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from right now. The Greyhound bus rolled into Detroit on a gray morning in March 2022. The city's industrial skyline visible through streaked windows as Marcus Thompson gathered his few belongings from the overhead compartment. He was 34 years old, carrying everything he owned in a duffel bag that weighed maybe 15 pounds. 3 changes of clothes, toiletries, a few books, and the paperwork documenting his release from the Wayne County Jail after serving 90 days for assault. 90 days. 3 months. It wasn't supposed to be that short, Marcus knew now, though he hadn't understood that at the time. 3 months had felt like an eternity when the judge handed down the sentence, when the bailiff led him away in handcuffs, when the cell door closed behind him for the first time. But looking back, knowing what he knew now, 3 months was nothing. A miscalculation. A failure in someone else's plan. Marcus stood 6 feet 2 inches tall, built solid from years of construction work, with dark skin and close-cropped hair going gray at the temples despite his relative youth. He had kind eyes, the sort of eyes that made people trust him, made them think he was someone you could count on. Those eyes had fooled him too, made him believe the best in people who didn't deserve it. He'd been in Detroit his entire life, born and raised in the 7 Mile area, working construction since he was 18. He'd saved money carefully, invested wisely, and by his late 20s owned 3 properties. The house where he lived with his wife, Vanessa, and 2 rental properties that generated steady income. Not wealthy by any means, but comfortable. Secure. Building something real. Vanessa had been his high school girlfriend, the girl he'd loved since he was 16 years old. They'd married when Marcus was 23, a small ceremony at her mother's church, family and close friends celebrating what everyone said was a perfect match. She'd worked as a medical billing specialist at a healthcare company downtown, bringing home decent money, contributing to their life together. And his best friend, Devin Carter, had been Marcus's brother in everything but blood since elementary school. They'd grown up on the same block, played basketball at the same rec center, gotten into the same minor trouble as teenagers, straightened out together as adults. Devin worked in sales at a car dealership, always charming, always talking, always knowing the right thing to say to make people feel comfortable. Marcus had trusted him completely, the way you trust family, the way you trust someone who's been part of your life for over 20 years. The 3 of them, Marcus, Vanessa, and Devin, had spent countless evenings together. Barbecues in Marcus's backyard. Watching Lions games despite the team's perpetual disappointment. Celebrating birthdays and holidays and life's small victories. Marcus had considered himself lucky to have both a loving wife and a best friend he could count on. He'd believed his life was exactly what he'd worked for. Stable, happy, complete. That belief had shattered on a Friday night in December 2021, 3 months and a lifetime ago. Marcus and Devin had gone to a bar on Woodward Avenue, a place called Riley's that they'd been going to for years. It was their Friday tradition when Marcus wasn't working Saturday shifts. Drinks, wings, pool, easy conversation. Vanessa had encouraged it, said Marcus needed time with his friend, that she didn't mind spending Friday evenings alone or with her own friends. They'd been there maybe an hour, on their second round of beers, when 3 men approached their table. Marcus didn't know them, had never seen them before. They were young, early 20s, wearing designer clothes and jewelry that suggested money from sources that probably weren't entirely legal. The tallest one, who seemed to be the leader, pointed at Devin. "Yo, you owe my cousin money. $2 grand. You said you'd pay him back last month. Devin's expression shifted into confusion, then recognition, then concern. Man, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't owe anybody money. My cousin Tony. You borrowed $2,000 for some car deal that fell through. Said you'd pay him back with interest. That was November. It's December now. I think you got me confused with someone else, Devin said, his salesman charm activating, trying to defuse the situation with reasonableness. I don't know anyone named Tony. I work at a dealership. I don't need to borrow money for car deals. The confrontation escalated quickly. The three men became aggressive, surrounding their table, voices rising. Other patrons were watching now, the bartender reaching for the phone to call security or police. Marcus stood up, positioning himself between Devin and the men. Look, there's obviously some confusion here. My boy says he doesn't owe your cousin anything. Maybe you got the wrong guy. Let's all just calm down and figure this out. Fuck that, the tall one said, shoving Marcus. Your boy's a liar and a thief. He's gonna pay what he owes. Marcus shoved back, not hard but firm, establishing that he wasn't going to let them intimidate Devin. What happened next unfolded in seconds. The tall one swung at Marcus. Marcus ducked and countered with a punch that connected solidly with the man's jaw, and suddenly all three men were on Marcus, fists flying. Devin, Marcus noticed later in his endless replaying of the scene, hadn't helped. Hadn't jumped in to assist his best friend who was fighting three guys to defend him. Devin had backed away, shouting for everyone to stop but not actually doing anything to stop it. Security broke up the fight within 30 seconds. The police arrived within 5 minutes. The three men claimed Marcus had attacked them unprovoked. Devin, when questioned, said he didn't know what the argument was about, that everything had happened so fast he couldn't be sure who'd thrown the first punch. Marcus was charged with assault. His attorney, a public defender named Sarah Morrison who handled 30 cases at once and could barely remember Marcus's name, advised him to take a plea deal, plead guilty to simple assault, 90 days in county jail, probation after release. Fighting the charge would mean a trial that could result in worse consequences if the jury didn't buy his self-defense argument. Marcus took the deal, believing it was the smart choice, the safe choice. 90 days. He'd serve his time, come home to Vanessa, return to his construction job, put the whole stupid incident behind him. Vanessa visited him twice during those 90 days. Just twice in 3 months. The first time, a week after his incarceration, she'd cried and said how much she missed him, how unfair it was that he was in jail for defending Devin, how she'd be waiting for him when he got out. The second time, 6 weeks into his sentence, she'd been distant, distracted, saying she was stressed about work and bills and managing everything alone. Devin never visited. Not once. He sent one letter early on, apologizing that Marcus had gotten arrested, saying he felt terrible about the whole situation, promising they'd make up for lost time when Marcus got out. During the long hours in his cell, Marcus had plenty of time to think. He replayed that night obsessively, examining every detail. The more he thought about it, the stranger it seemed. Those three men had appeared so quickly, so specifically targeting Devin. The story about borrowed money had felt rehearsed. And Devin's reaction, backing away rather than helping, being vague with police, didn't match the behavior of someone whose best friend was fighting to defend him. But Marcus dismissed his suspicions as paranoia, the kind of thinking that happened when you had too much time alone with your thoughts. Devin was his brother. They'd been friends for over 2 decades. There was no reason to doubt him. Now, stepping off the Greyhound bus into the cold Detroit morning, Marcus pushed those thoughts aside. He was going home. Home to Vanessa, to his house, to his life. 90 days was over. He could start rebuilding. He took the bus to his neighborhood, a working-class area of modest single-family homes with chain-link fences and cars in various states of repair in the driveways. His house was near the end of the block, a small two-bedroom with vinyl siding that he'd painted blue 3 years ago. The lawn needed mowing, he noticed, and one of the shutters was hanging loose. Small things. Manageable things. He'd fix them this weekend. It was 10:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. Vanessa should be at work, wouldn't be home until after 5 p.m. Marcus didn't have a key anymore. They'd taken his keys when he was arrested, so he'd have to wait for her to get home or find the spare key they kept hidden under a fake rock by the back door. He walked around to the back, found the fake rock, and retrieved the key. He let himself in through the back door, stepping into his kitchen, breathing in the familiar smell of his home, feeling relief wash over him. He was back. Finally back. The kitchen was messier than Vanessa usually kept it. Dishes in the sink, takeout containers on the counter, but that was understandable. She'd been managing alone for 3 months. He'd help her get things back in order. He walked through the house, noticing small changes. New photos on the wall, furniture rearranged slightly, her work bag on the dining room table. He headed upstairs to the bedroom, thinking he'd take a shower, change into clean clothes, maybe surprise Vanessa by having dinner ready when she got home from work. He opened the bedroom door and his entire world imploded. Vanessa was in their bed. Their bed, the one they'd bought together 5 years ago, the one they'd made love in countless times, the one that represented their shared life. And she wasn't alone. Devin was with her. His best friend. His brother. Naked in Marcus's bed with Marcus's wife, their bodies intertwined in a way that left no ambiguity about what they'd been doing. The three of them froze, a tableau of betrayal that would be burned into Marcus's memory forever. Vanessa's eyes went wide with horror. Devin's face cycled through shock, then fear, then something that might have been defiance. Marcus felt rage explode through him, hot and overwhelming, every muscle in his body tensing for violence. He could kill them both, right now, with his bare hands. End them for this betrayal, this desecration of everything he'd trusted and believed in. His hands clenched into fists. He took a step toward the bed. Vanessa screamed, pulling the sheet up to cover herself. Devin scrambled backward, trying to put distance between them. Marcus, wait, Devin started. Don't, Marcus said, his voice barely human. Don't say a fucking word. For 10 seconds, maybe 15, Marcus stood there at the edge of doing something that would destroy what was left of his life. Prison had taught him what violence looked like, what it cost. If he touched either of them right now, if he let this rage control him, he'd go back to jail. Not for 90 days this time. For years. Maybe forever. The realization cut through his anger like ice water. This was a setup. This had to be a setup. They'd known he was getting out today. His release date was public information. Vanessa had access to it. They'd arranged this scene deliberately, knowing he'd come home, knowing what he'd find, expecting him to react exactly the way his body was screaming at him to react. They wanted him to attack them. Wanted him to commit assault or murder so they could call the police and watch him disappear into the system permanently. Marcus unclenched his fists. He took a deep breath, then another, forcing his body to obey his mind rather than his rage. Get out of my house, he said quietly. Both of you. Now. Marcus, please let me explain, Vanessa started. There's nothing to explain. I can see everything I need to see. Get dressed and get out. You have 5 minutes before I call the police and report you for trespassing. He turned and walked out of the room, down the stairs, out the front door, because staying in that house another second would break his control. He walked down his street, past familiar houses and neighbors who didn't know what had just happened, walked until he reached McCarran's Pub, a neighborhood bar that opened at 11 a.m. for people who needed drinks before noon. He ordered a whiskey, drank it in one swallow, ordered another. The bartender, an older white man named Pete who'd worked there for 20 years, poured without comment. This was a place where people came to drink their problems, and Pete had learned long ago not to ask questions. Marcus sat there for 2 hours, drinking steadily but not quickly, thinking through everything with a clarity that alcohol somehow sharpened rather than dulled. The bar fight that sent him to jail. Devin's convenient absence during the actual fighting. The 3 men who'd appeared so specifically to start trouble. Vanessa's limited visits during his incarceration. Devin never visiting at all. This wasn't recent. This affair, this betrayal had been going on for months, maybe longer. And the bar fight, that hadn't been random either. That had been orchestrated. Those 3 men had been hired or convinced to start a fight that would result in Marcus's arrest. But why? What did they gain from him being in jail? His properties. The house, the 2 rental units that generated income. If Marcus was in prison long-term, if he was convicted of a serious crime, Vanessa as his wife would have claims to everything. She could sell the properties, take the money, start a new life with Devin. But 90 days hadn't been enough time. That's why they'd staged today's scene, trying to provoke him into attacking them, into giving them grounds for a restraining order or an assault charge that would send him back to jail for real time. The more Marcus thought about it, the more obvious the plan became. They'd failed with the bar fight. He'd only gotten 90 days instead of the years they'd hoped for. So they tried again with a scene designed to trigger maximum rage. But he hadn't taken the bait. He'd walked away. Which meant their plan had failed. Around 2 p.m., Devin walked into McCarran's pub. Marcus saw him enter. Watched him spot Marcus at the bar. Saw determination on Devin's face as he approached. "Marcus, man, we need to talk," Devin said, sliding onto the bar stool next to him. "Nothing to talk about," Marcus said, staring at his drink. "Please just hear me out. I know what you saw looks terrible. I know you must hate me right now. But it's not what you think." Marcus almost laughed. "Not what I think. I caught you fucking my wife in my bed. What else could it possibly be?" "It just happened," Devin said, his voice smooth, practiced. "We didn't mean for it to happen. While you were gone, Vanessa needed support, needed someone to talk to. I was there for her. Things developed. We didn't plan it. We feel terrible about it." "How long?" Marcus asked. "What? How long have you been sleeping with my wife?" Devin hesitated, calculating. "A few weeks. It only started recently. The loneliness, the stress." "You're lying," Marcus said flatly. "You're lying right to my face, and you're doing it badly. This has been going on for months, probably since before I went to jail. Maybe that's even why I went to jail." Something flickered in Devin's expression, just for a second. Surprise that Marcus had figured it out, maybe, or fear that the plan was unraveling. "I don't know what you mean," Devin said. "Your arrest was just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time." "Those 3 guys at Riley's," Marcus said, turning to face Devin directly now. "They knew your name. They came specifically looking for you with some bullshit story about borrowed money. And you backed away instead of helping when they jumped me. You let me take that beating and that charge alone. I was scared. I didn't know what to do." "You're a liar," Marcus said, his voice hard. "And you're a coward. You set me up to get me out of the way so you could take my wife and my property. Except I didn't get enough time, did I? 90 days wasn't long enough for you to steal everything. So you tried again today, staging that scene, hoping I'd attack you so you could call the cops and watch me go away for real time." Devin's face had gone pale. "That's crazy. You're paranoid. 3 months in jail messed with your head." "Get the fuck away from me," Marcus said. "Now, before I change my mind about not kicking your ass." Devin stood up, backing away, but his expression had shifted into something uglier. You can't prove anything. And Vanessa's already talked to a lawyer about divorce. You put your hands on either of us, you'll be back in jail so fast. I said get out. Devin left, his exit quick and nervous. Marcus ordered another drink, his mind now working through practical problems rather than emotional ones. He needed evidence. He needed proof of what they'd done, what they'd planned. Without it, this was just his word against theirs, a bitter ex-convict making accusations against his cheating wife and former friend. The next day, Marcus called Sarah Morrison, the public defender who'd handled his assault case. She remembered him vaguely, pulled up his file, and agreed to meet him at her office that afternoon. Sarah was in her early 30s, overworked and underpaid, with the permanent exhaustion of someone trying to provide adequate legal representation to too many clients with too few resources. But she was sharp, Marcus had learned during his case, and she genuinely cared about her clients. Even when the system made caring seem pointless. "What can I do for you, Marcus?" she asked after inviting him into her small office piled with case files. "You're not in trouble again, are you?" "Not yet," Marcus said. "But I think I was set up. The bar fight, my arrest, I don't think it was random." He explained everything. Coming home to find Vanessa and Devin together, his suspicions about the bar fight being orchestrated, his theory about them trying to get him in prison long-term so they could take his property. Sarah listened carefully, taking notes. When he finished, she sat back in her chair, thinking. Conspiracy to commit fraud would be the charge if you could prove they orchestrated your arrest with the intent to steal your assets, she said finally. But proving it would be very difficult. You'd need evidence that those three men were hired or convinced to start the fight. You'd need evidence that Devin and Vanessa were having an affair before your arrest and planned this together. How do I get that evidence? The three men who fought you, did they have criminal records? I don't know. I can find out. If they did, and if any of them have connections to Devin or Vanessa, that could be relevant. But honestly, Marcus, even with that, it's circumstantial. Prosecutors wouldn't touch a case like this without something more concrete. What if they admitted it? Marcus asked. What if I could get them to confess? Sarah looked at him carefully. Michigan is a one-party consent state for recording conversations. That means you can legally record a conversation you're part of without the other person's knowledge. If you could get them to admit to planning your arrest, to having the affair, to attempting to steal your property, a recording of that conversation would be admissible evidence. So I need to get them talking and record it. Yes. But Marcus, be very careful. If you approach this wrong, if they feel threatened or suspicious, they won't say anything incriminating. You need them to feel safe, to believe you're offering them something they want. Marcus thought about this. What did they want? They wanted him gone, ideally in prison. They wanted his property. They wanted to continue their affair without interference. What if he offered them exactly that? What if he pretended to give up, to accept defeat, to offer them a clean divorce and easy access to the property, if they'd just be honest with him about what had happened? People wanted to gloat when they won. People wanted to explain their cleverness when they thought they'd gotten away with something. Vanessa and Devin might be willing to admit everything if they thought Marcus was broken and defeated. I think I know how to do this, Marcus said. Over the next 3 days, Marcus prepared carefully. He bought a small digital recorder, the kind that looked like a pen, and tested it repeatedly to make sure the audio quality would capture clear conversation. He rehearsed what he'd say, how he'd present himself, defeated but seeking closure, hurt but willing to move on if they'd just give him honesty. On Saturday morning, he texted both Vanessa and Devin separately. I need closure. I need to understand what happened and why. Can we meet at the house to talk? Just talk, I promise. I won't do anything stupid. I just need to hear your side of things so I can move on. Please. Vanessa responded first. Thank God you're ready to listen. I've wanted to explain, but you seemed so angry. Yes, we can meet. When? Devin took longer to respond, probably more suspicious. What's this really about? You trying to set us up for something? Marcus responded to both. Just want to hear the truth. That's all. 2 p.m. today at the house. They both agreed. Marcus set up his recording device, testing it one more time to ensure it would capture clearly from his shirt pocket where he'd keep it. He cleaned the house, wanting them comfortable, wanting everything to feel calm and safe. They arrived separately, Vanessa first at 1:55 p.m., Devin 5 minutes later. Both looked nervous but also relieved, as if they'd expected worse. They sat on the couch in Marcus's living room, the couch he'd bought in the house he'd paid for, while Marcus sat in the armchair across from them, the recorder in his pocket already running. Thank you for coming, Marcus started, his voice measured, tired. I know what you both saw on Tuesday. Me walking in, finding you together, that must have been scary. I'm sorry if I frightened you. Vanessa's expression shifted to relief immediately. Thank you for saying that. I was terrified. I thought you were going to hurt us. I wanted to, Marcus admitted honestly. But I didn't. And I'm not going to. I just need to understand what happened. How long has this been going on? Vanessa and Devin exchanged glances, having a silent conversation about how much to admit. Finally, Vanessa spoke. I'm sorry, Marcus. I really am. It's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like, Marcus repeated, unable to keep the edge from his voice. Everyone keeps saying that. What does it look like, Vanessa? Because it looks like you've been having an affair with my best friend. It's been going on for a while, Devin said, jumping in. I'm not going to lie to you about that. It started about 6 months ago. We didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. 6 months ago. November. A month before the bar fight. So you were sleeping with my wife before I went to jail, Marcus said. Yes, Vanessa admitted. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. And then you got arrested and everything became so complicated. About my arrest, Marcus said carefully. That was convenient timing, wasn't it? Silence. Devin's expression became guarded. What do you mean? I mean those 3 guys who started the fight at Riley's. They came specifically looking for you, Devin, with a story about money you supposedly owed. And then I ended up in jail for defending you, and you two had 3 months to be together without me in the way. That was just bad luck, Devin said quickly. I didn't know those guys. I still don't know what that was about. Marcus studied him, seeing the lie clearly now that he knew to look for it. You know what's interesting? I've had a lot of time to think about that night, and the more I think about it, the less random it seems. Those guys appeared at exactly the right time. They knew your name, and you backed away instead of helping me fight them. I was scared. You wanted me arrested, Marcus said flatly. You set that whole thing up so I'd go to jail and you could be with Vanessa without me around. Except I only got 90 days instead of the years you were hoping for. Vanessa's face had gone white. Marcus, that's not, we didn't. Is that why you staged Tuesday's scene? Marcus continued, his voice harder now, anger bleeding through his controlled facade. You knew I was getting released. You knew I'd come home. You arranged for me to find you two in bed together, hoping I'd lose it and attack you so you could call the cops and get me sent back to jail for real time. You're paranoid, Devin said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Because it all fits together pretty perfectly. You two want my property. The house, the rental units. But you can't just take them while I'm around. You need me gone. In prison would be perfect. Then Vanessa could divorce me, claim the property, and you two could sell everything and live off my work. That's insane, Vanessa said, but her eyes were filling with tears, and Marcus recognized them not as tears of innocence but tears of someone whose plan had been exposed. "Admit it," Marcus said quietly. "Please. I just need to hear you say it. You two planned this together. You wanted me in prison so you could take everything I've built. Just admit it and I'll give you the divorce, sign over the property, walk away from all of it. I just need to hear the truth." The silence stretched out. Marcus could see them thinking, calculating odds, weighing options. They'd come here expecting a defeated man ready to give up. Maybe they could give him what he wanted. A confession that cost them nothing since he was offering to hand over everything anyway. Vanessa spoke first, her voice small. "I'm sorry. We didn't want to hurt you. We just wanted to be together and you were in the way, and Devin said he knew how to make it work." "I knew this guy," Devin interrupted, jumping in now that Vanessa had started. "Jamal. He owed me money from way back, and I told him I'd forgive his debt if he'd do me a favor. Just start a fight at Riley's, make it look like it was about something else, provoke you so you'd throw a punch. I knew you'd defend me. That's who you are. Always standing up for people. You used that against me," Marcus said. "Used my loyalty to set me up. We thought you'd get a year, maybe more," Vanessa admitted, crying openly now. "Jamal was supposed to really sell the assault, make it look worse than it was. But you only got 90 days. So we had to try again." "Tuesday," Marcus said. "You knew I was coming home. You arranged for me to find you together. We thought you'd attack Devin," Vanessa said. "We thought you'd be so angry that you'd beat him up, and then we could file charges, get a restraining order, prove you were violent. And then you'd go back to jail for violating probation, and this time it would be years." "But I walked away," Marcus said. "You walked away," Devin confirmed, almost sounding disappointed. "We couldn't believe it. We thought for sure you'd come at me. Any man would have." "I'm not any man," Marcus said quietly. "I'm a man who learned in jail what violence costs. And I'm a man who's smart enough to recognize a setup." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the recording device, holding it up so they could see it clearly. Their faces went through remarkable transformations. Confusion, recognition, horror. "You recorded us," Vanessa whispered. "Every word," Marcus confirmed. "You admitted to conspiracy to commit fraud, to orchestrating my arrest, to attempting to steal my property. All of it on tape in your own words." Devin stood up quickly, his expression shifting to rage. "You fucking tricked us." "I did exactly what you did to me," Marcus said calmly. "I set you up. I let you think you'd won. And you couldn't help but gloat about it." "That recording won't hold up in court," Devin said desperately. "You entrapped us. You manipulated us into saying things." "Michigan is a one-party consent state," Marcus said. "I can legally record any conversation I'm part of without your knowledge. And entrapment only applies to law enforcement, not private citizens. My attorney already confirmed all of this." Vanessa was crying harder now, her body shaking. "Marcus, please. Please don't do this. We can work this out. I'll sign the divorce papers, give you the house, whatever you want." "What I want," Marcus said, standing up now, "is for you both to get the fuck out of my house and my life. Right now. You have two choices. Leave quietly and never contact me again, or I take this recording to the police and the prosecutor's office and we meet in court where you can both face fraud charges." "You can't prove," Devin started. "I can prove all of it," Marcus interrupted. "Your friend Jamal? My attorney found his criminal record. Assault, fraud, conspiracy. A real winner. And she found bank records showing you paid him $1,500 2 days before the bar fight. That's not proof by itself, but combined with this recording where you admit to hiring him, that's a prosecutor's dream. The lie about the bank records was a gamble, but it worked. Devin's face confirmed the transaction had happened, even if Sarah hadn't actually found the records yet. "You have 1 minute to decide," Marcus said. "Leave voluntarily or face criminal charges. Your choice." They chose to leave. What else could they do? Devin walked out first, his expression containing pure hatred, the mask of friendship completely dropped. Vanessa lingered, trying one more time to plead, to negotiate, to find some way to salvage something. "I loved you," she said. "At the beginning, I really did love you. But not enough to be loyal," Marcus replied. "Not enough to be honest. Not enough to not try to destroy me." She left, closing the door behind her, and Marcus stood alone in his living room in his house, holding the recording that had saved everything he'd built. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Vanessa signed papers giving Marcus sole ownership of all marital property in exchange for him not pursuing criminal charges. Devin disappeared from Detroit entirely, moving to Atlanta according to mutual friends, running away from the consequences of his betrayal. Marcus kept his house and his rental properties. He returned to construction work, rebuilding his savings that had been depleted by legal fees and 3 months without income. His co-workers welcomed him back without questions, and his boss even gave him a small raise, respecting that Marcus had served his time and come back ready to work. The recording sat in a safe deposit box at Marcus's bank, insurance against Vanessa or Devin ever trying anything again. Sarah Morrison had advised him to keep it indefinitely, evidence that might be needed if they violated their agreement or attempted any future schemes. Marcus never told his full story to most people. He told them the marriage had ended, that he and Devin were no longer friends, but he left out the details of the setup and the betrayal and the recording that had turned the tables. Some things were private, meant to be carried quietly rather than shared widely. But he did tell his story to his younger brother, Andre, one evening over beers in Marcus's backyard, warning him about trusting too completely, about recognizing when people's actions didn't match their words, about protecting himself even from people who claimed to love him. "How did you not kill them?" Andre asked. "Seriously? Walking in on that, catching them together, how did you not just lose it?" Marcus thought about this. "Because prison taught me something important. Taught me that acting on rage, no matter how justified, always costs you more than it costs them. They wanted me to lose control. They were counting on it. So I did the one thing they didn't expect. You walked away." "I walked away," Marcus confirmed. "And then I outplayed them. Beat them at their own game. That takes discipline I don't know if I'd have." "You'd have it if you needed it," Marcus said. "When the alternative is throwing your life away, you find the discipline." Years later, Marcus would rebuild his life more fully. He'd eventually date again, carefully and slowly, learning to trust again despite the betrayal he'd survived. He'd expand his rental property portfolio, buying another building in a better neighborhood, building real wealth rather than just stability. And sometimes, late at night, he'd think about that moment in his bedroom doorway, about the rage that had almost consumed him, about how close he'd come to destroying himself by giving them exactly what they wanted. He'd think about the choices we make in our worst moments, about discipline and control and refusing to let other people's betrayal turn you into someone you're not. He'd survived it. Survived the setup, survived the jail time, survived the betrayal. And not only survived but prevailed, keeping everything they'd tried to steal, turning their scheme back on them, walking away with his integrity intact even when they tried to strip him of everything else. That, Marcus decided, was its own form of justice. Not the dramatic kind from movies. Not the satisfying violence his body had screamed for in that moment of discovery. But the quiet, lasting kind that came from refusing to become what they needed him to become. He'd won by not playing their game. By changing the rules. by being smarter and more controlled and more patient than they'd anticipated. And every morning when he woke up in his own bed, in his own house, living his own life that he'd successfully defended from people who tried to steal it, that was victory enough.